Hello students, today's our topic is wave theory of light. So, first we have to know this thing that what is the concept behind the wave theory of light. Initially, the Newton's give uh, its theory in which he told that particle is moving. The light is consist of a small particles called as corpuscles, and these corpuscles are the basically a small particle and produced by the luminous source, and they travel in a with a high velocity when these particles enter into the retina of an eye. This gives the sensation of the vision, and different color are due to the different sizes of this particle. This theory need to explain the phenomena of reflection of light. According to this theory, when light travel in a denser medium, corpuscles are attracted by the particle of the denser medium, due to which direction of the light is changed and velocity is increased. But the fact is that the velocity is decreased inside the denser medium. Also, this theory is failed to explain the phenomena like interference, diffraction, and etc. So this theory was discarded as an inaccurate theory, and the theory is given by the Huygens, and Huygens supposed that lights are moving in a form of waves. This theory came from when they saw that water is moving when we generate some disturbance inside the water. Then the disturbance move like a crust and trough, or we can say that somewhere their disturbance having a maximum amplitude and somewhere they have a minimum amplitude, so they move like waves. So in the similar way, he supposed that wave that light is also moving like a wave, because whenever the light is came inside one box or in one house, it illuminate the whole area. And this is only possible when it's moved like a wave, because when the water enter in some passage, then it's fill into that passage, because it's moved like a wave. So on the basis of same assumption, he supposed that light is also moving in the form of wave. Now he said that every point of a given wavefront, called a primary wavefront, act as a fresh source of new disturbance and called a secondary wavefront, that travel in all direction with the velocity of light in the medium. This is the first point, or a first description given by the Huygens. Huygens says that the when this disturbance are traveling the in a same phase, this when we are collecting the locus of this disturbance which are traveling in a same phase, they are known as a wavefront, and these wavefronts are the known as a primary wavefronts, and they are acting like a fresh source of a new wavefront, and or we can say that a new disturbance, and this is known as a secondary wavelets, and they are traveling in all direction with the velocity of light in the medium. The surface touching this secondary wavelet tangentially in the forward direction at any instant give a new wavefront at the instant. This is the secondary wavefront, means light waves are traveling when these wavefronts are traveling ahead, and they produce new secondary wavelets. Then if we are going to be draw a tangent over this secondary wavelength, then we will get the new wavefront. Another suggestion which is given by the Huygens are the locus of the all particle in the medium vibrating in a same phase is known as a wavefront, as I told you this thing. In the direction of propagation light is always perpendicular to the wavefront. Every point on the given wavefront act like a source of a new disturbance called a secondary wavelet, which are traveling in all direction. A surface, we know that this is the second point of the Huygens description, that a surface touching this secondary wavelength tangentially in the forward direction at any instant gives the new wavefront at that instant. This is called the secondary wave. Okay, so whatever I have explained before, I'm going to explain with the help of these diagrams now. So see here, this is there is one candle. It is a behave like a light source. When the light source this light source generate the disturbance, then this disturbance are moving in the form of wavefront, or we can say that they are moving in the form of wave. So the waves which are, or we can say that the disturbance which are in the same phase, if we are going to be find out its locus, then this locus gives us a wavefront. And here you can say that this waves are moving, this first wave, second wave, and third wave. There are three waves, and these three waves, if we are going to be calculate the phase, same phase of this wave, so we have seen that this wave is also moving here also across, there here also across, here across. So we are collecting the point which are at the upper side, so we get a new wave front. And this wave front is able to produce a new source which is known as a secondary wavelet. So what are the secondary wavelet? Now this is the wavefront. So the each point of the wavefront is able to produce a new wave and new source, or we can say that they are able to produce a new source. That's why these points are known as a secondary wavelet. Now if we are seeing that if we are draw a tangent which touched with this all new secondary wavelet, then it's give us a new wavefront. And see here, or when we are going to be draw a perpendicular over this, then we get the direction of propagation of wave. Now there are three types of main wavefront. One is a spherical wavefront, cylindrical wavefront, and plane wavefront. We get a spherical wavefront when the source is point source. We get cylindrical when the source is line source. If the source is situated very far away from us, suppose that like a sun is situated very far away from us. So when the it's behave like a point source for us. So when the wavefront are coming from the sun, and at that time what happen, and the shape of that wavefront is very large, and the human being, and if we are talking about the human being, then the size of a human being is very small at comparatively that wavefront. So if a spherical wavefront is coming, and the size of a human being is so small as compared to that wavefront, so when this wavefront is striking with this human being, so we can say that this part is nearly about linear. Because of that, because it is a sphere, but it's a very big sphere, and the size of a human being is very small. So only a small part of that spherical surface is attached with a human, and that time this surface is not a spherical, this surface become a linear. So we can, because we are talking a spherical wavefront, that's why the part is which is striking with the human being, it's not a spherical, it is a rectangular. So whenever the source is very far away from a person, and they produce a spherical wavefront, then the part which come towards a person, one is not a spherical, it's a rectangular. So we are getting rectangular wavefront when the source is very far away from us. So these are the types of wavefront. Okay, now the next thing is at the why we have why the Huygens give this theory of wave, or we can say that Huygens explained that light behave like a wave, because he wants to explain the interference. Interference. So, what is interference? Basically, interference is nothing but it is a superimposition of two light ray, and due to that the intensity is redistributed. So we can say that the redistribution of intensity due to the superimposition of two light ray is known as the interference. There are two types of interference. One is a constructive interference, another is a destructive interference. Now I'm going to explain this thing why interference is able to explain by the wave theory, not by the corpuscular theory. Because according to corpuscular theory, if a light is a particle, then it is travel in a straight line, and suppose that it strike in a surface, then it's also reflect in a straight line. So if the two waves are propagating parallel to each other, then there is a no chance to superimpose of these two waves, because we know that two parallel lines are never ever meet with each other. So if we suppose that light is traveling in the form of wave front, or we can say that traveling in the form of waves, then what happened when you have see here that when this in the red form I have shown the wave fronts. So when wave fronts are light is traveling in the form of wave front, then these wave fronts are superimposed to each other, and when these wave fronts are superimposed to each other, their intensity is redistributed, and this interference phenomena occur. Now when the constructive interference occurs when the crust is overlapped with the crust and trough is overlapped on a trough. In that condition, the constructive interference occur when the crust is overlapped with the trough, or trough is overlapped with the crust. The amplitude becomes minimum, and this type of interference known as a destructive interference. So in the constructive interference, the amplitude is increased, and in the destructive interference, the amplitude is decreased. Now, what are the condition for sustainable interference? Now, what is this sustainable interference means? Sustainable interference means that we are able to get the interference pattern, or we can get the proper interference pattern on some screen, or we are able to see it. So there are few conditions for the sustainable interference. We can see that what are these conditions are. Our first thing is that the two interfering source must be a coherent, and that is they must be kept a constant phase difference. It means that the phase difference between the two light ray must be a constant. They are never ever be a change, and I have already explained the coherent states in my previous lectures. So the next condition, the two interfering sources must be a limit the light of the same waves and the time period. This condition can be achieved by using the monochromatic common light source. That is the common source emits the light of a single wavelength. Okay. Now the second thing is that the amplitude or intensity of the interference must be equal or nearly equal, so that the minimum intensity would be a zero. The next one is the next condition is the separation between the two coherent sets must be as small as possible, so that the width of the fringe is large and it's separately visualized. The next condition is the two source must be a narrow, and they must be extremely small. A broad source is equivalent to a large number of finite source. Each pair of the finite source will give its own pattern, and the fringes of different interval band will be a overlap. That's why we cannot use the broad sources. We always use the small sources for the sustainable interference. The next one is that the distance between the two coherent source and screen must be as possible as large. Means that if you want to see the fringe separately, so that the distance between the screen and source must be a large, and the distance the two interfering source must be promoting along along a same direction, so that their vibrations are along at a common line. Or we can say that both source must be in a same polarization state. We know that there are three polarizations, just linear polarization, and this elliptical polarization and circular polarization. If one source is elliptically polarized, then second source must be elliptical polarized. They never ever equal to a circular polarized light, or they are never ever emitting the circular polarized light. So these are the some condition for the sustainable interference. So today we have learned about the wave theory of light and the interference. Thank you, students.